couple different nights this week, there were some insane full moons. You could easily walk around and see everywhere you were going. It was crazy. Where my story starts was nothing like those days. Like pitch black, or as Jody would say, pitch dark. I was walking along and came to the base of a hill for the purpose of this story. We'll call it a mountain. Basically blinded, feeling around with my hands to see where I was going, and eventually knew that I was at the base of the mountain and about to start ascending, I guess. And I could see kind of a faint blue light over the top of it, but and it's so steep that it was like hands and knees as I was kind of climbing upward. And as I started moving, it was clear there was some animal in front of me, that I made some noises, kind of swatted. I felt a little bit, knocked it out of the way, and it scampered away, fortunately. So I continued my climb upwards, and I got closer to the top, and could still see kind of the blue light over the top and had to figure out what that was. So I reached finally the summit, and it was this really weird, like cushiony, squishy substance, but kind of a drop off on the other side. So I kind of leaned over as far as I possibly could without falling over, and I kissed Jody goodnight while she was reading her Kindle. Then I backed off, descended the mountain, and went to bed. And that is what's known as the Jody Pillow Mountain that she has to have every single night. Welcome to Becoming Chicken Pop, a podcast about our family, past and present, for our family in the future.
We discuss family, marriage, faith, and all the things that made us chick and pop. Well, I think we should start off this episode with a hugely big happy birthday, Tobias Richard Bepler. We love you very much.
Happy birthday, buddy.
So I realize the day this episode releases isn't your birthday, but today is actually the day. So we just wanted to give you a huge shout out. I hope you're having so much fun. It's a Saturday here in Michigan, and it is rivalry weekend in the state of Michigan. So it is the big Michigan State-Michigan football game. They're playing in Ann Arbor at the Big House today, and what a fun day Toby gets to have today, hanging out with his two oldest friends. And I don't think the three-headed monster has been together in a while. So
the three-headed monster.
That's
that
right.
Has been the name for 20 years.
Yep. So that's Toby and his friends Colin and Connor. Super fun. So happy birthday, Tobes. We love you.
Happy birthday, Tobes. He asked me how old I was, and I told him 2017. Right?
Sure.
Because for some reason I thought he was 17 for about 5 years.
You did.
Or thought he should be.
Yeah.
And then once it became a thing, it just became a thing.
And so now Toby's forever 17.
Yeah.
So Tim, I realize now that we're 9 episodes in, hopefully our listeners have taken a look at our logo, which I had designed very professionally by a top-rated graphic designer, namely you. So let's give a little explanation behind that logo.
Well, it's a very literal logo for me. Mm-hmm. The imagery on it is just very simply my beard.
That's right.
And your pineapple hair.
That's right.
So,
pretty iconic these days.
We're going to have to keep them forever now, I guess. But
I know.
It seems like we've pretty much settled in, and that's what it is.
I'm never going to be able to go to short hair. I've always got to have a pineapple.
Because Jody has some of the thickest hair you've ever seen. And naturally curly, which seems to annoy a lot of other women that we that we hear that come up and comment on her hair. But anyway, she could go full 80s if she wanted to with a
Oh,
large,
yeah.
large hairdo.
Yeah.
But she keeps it contained in this pineapple on the top of her head.
Yeah.
And then I have a white beard, so there's a white beard on the logo. Pretty simple and literal.
Yep.
Like I said, you know, the funny thing, did I tell you this? When I was designing the logo, I just went online and searched white beard, and I pulled one up of this guy that was like in way better shape than me, and I kind of traced the shape of it. I was like, well, that does not look like me. It looks like some actor, you know, with the perfect jaw and everything. So I went to my own picture and did the very rounded version, which is my face. So that's our logo anyway.
And it's very iconic because it is how we look as Chicken Pop.
It is. It's perfect for this venture.
Absolutely.
And it's how anyone miles or younger is going to know us. So
Yes.
who this is for. So perfect.
So a few observations as we're, 9 episodes in today to this podcast. I think for me, it's been really fun to get unsolicited positive feedback from our boys that they're really enjoying this. And that's all the encouragement I need. So
Yeah.
I think that in itself is mission accomplished for this podcast. It feels great.
They've taken the time to listen to it.
Yeah.
Both boys and Shelby and Emily.
Yeah.
Maybe together. I don't know. But yeah, like we said, that's who it's for, them and on down. So we're glad that they're listening to it and taking the time.
Absolutely.
Related to the boys, something that I've also noticed as I produce these episodes, which I'm sorry, I keep telling you that I'm sick of this episode because I have to listen to it like at least 3 times after we've done it,
Right. During the production
yeah.
process. Yeah.
cutting and knocking out all my pauses. But something I've noticed, I just did it now, when I talk through a smile or talk through a laugh, it is 100% how the boys talk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's deserves an apology, but that's how it goes. But you know what I was thinking though? Let's jump back to the college days.
Yeah.
To the Quast, our friend Jay, who was in the dorm with us. Him, his brother, and his dad all talked exactly the same way.
Exactly the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was contagious enough that we started talking like that in the dorm,
Yeah.
I think. And that's kind of where like Shikmama came from,
Yeah.
and he called me Timmy,
Yeah.
and what the dump?
I forgot about what the dump.
Yeah. So anyway, all 3 of them sound exactly like, and I don't think we're that dead on, but it's happening. So
Absolutely. Well, and so I mean, I think there's something to it. I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time together, your blood relatives. I mean, but I even remember as a kid, my grandma used to say, especially on the phone, it was really hard to tell my dad and his brothers apart on the telephone. Like if one of them called, like it was really hard for her to tell if they didn't, without any context. Like they all sounded so much alike. And I mean, I don't think you've ever met my Uncle Larry. He lives out in Las Vegas.
I think
or
I
maybe
did
you
once.
yeah, I guess you did once at the family reunion. But I mean, you've obviously spent time with my Uncle Rich and my dad, and very much alike. Like their speech patterns, they sound alike. And even my Aunt Karen, their sister, they all like, there is this Gilbert way of speaking. So it's really interesting the way that carries along family lines.
it is. If anybody wants to chime in with their own story, hit us up on the social with this one, because
Yeah.
I think it does happen more than we think.
It does,
And
yeah.
it's interesting and funny, and
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Any other observations as you've been like doing the heavy lifting on the production, as you're listening back to episodes?
Well, I got you on a standing mic at least 1 or 2 episodes ago, and I realized I needed to do it too, because
Yeah.
handling the mic was making all kinds of extra noises that
Yep.
just add to production time, which is not something I want. So hopefully every week production gets a little bit easier and better for everybody.
Yeah. So let's go on to kind of one of our weekly prompts. Tell me something that made you laugh, smile, or cry in a good way this week.
I made a note from our last episode where it was one of our classic moments. First of all, you told me, "Why don't you tell us that a little bit about that story?" And whenever you do that, I kind of panic and freeze up because I don't really want to tell the story because I know you have other details you want to hear. So it happened in the episode. I was rambling along, and all of a sudden you said,
So you're talking about ramble. This is from episode 7. We were talking about like the history of the duplex.
"Oh, it was 7." Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. She told me to start telling the story. And then a couple minutes in, she said, "Let me stop you there. I'm going to jump in." Because it just was not cutting it in terms of details. Mm-hmm. So I
Your
backed off.
timelines were all off, and that just makes me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes me panic mostly.
Yeah.
I start into the story and I'm like, "Oh, crap. I got to come up with a date right now." And there's no way I'm
And
going to
there's
come
a
up with a
sequential
date.
order to this? What?
So in real life, that's when I immediately look over to you.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
you provide the details.
Yes. Yeah. Which is interesting because, and I know that this is a very annoying thing that I do, but isn't it interesting, like as we talk about from enduring to endearing, that now in conversations with other people, like you look to me to help fill in those details or names, right?
Oh, names for sure.
Like one of our tricks is Tim is not great with remembering people's names. So when we're in a group of people we haven't seen or we don't, whatever. When I greet someone, I intentionally use their name to make sure he knows their name.
I don't think that's unique to us. I think other people
No.
use the trick, but it
Yeah.
is so valuable.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just some of those things that you learn over the years, like, oh, and you'll look, you'll just kind of give me a look as we're talking about something like, oh, yep, this is my chance to fill in the detail or answer this question because you don't have a clue. Yeah.
Hey, you doing all right over there in our south studio?
I need some sunglasses. The sun
you
is
got-
right in my eyes.
It's the end of November and we got another summer day coming
It's
up.
October 26th.
It's the end of October.
We've already established it's Toby's
right
birthday.
right on cue.
Yep.
I can't even get the current month and date right.
That was just classic. Oh.
All right. How about you? What was one of your smiles or
Oh, so, last Saturday we had a really nice day. My mom came up for the weekend because we had plans to go to the pumpkin patch Saturday afternoon and a dinner. And then we went to this really cool event called Jack-o'-lanterns Unleashed at the Ingham County Fairgrounds. And then it turns out that Emily did a show Saturday morning. And so we got to go to that too. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context in Emily because we haven't talked about her a ton. So Emily is our daughter-in-law. She's married to Toby, the birthday boy.
Hey, Jody, I'm here for any details you need, by the way.
Thank you, Tim. When were Toby and Emily married?
The day when they were married.
Yep. Okay. So anyway, Emily is a registered nurse. She is a licensed reflexologist, and she's also a Reiki practitioner. And Emily launched her own business early this year called Enlightened Lotus. And one of the things that she's really passionate about is merging kind of the ideas of traditional healthcare and holistic healthcare and how people can really benefit from both. And part of what she's done is she's developed a whole line of products. So she's got a whole line of facial products, which are just amazing. They're all organic, really natural, healthy, good for you products, no chemicals or anything like that. She's got a whole line of soaps, some hair products. She even made this great kind of bug spray.
This feels like an endorsement. Are we getting paid for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll make you treats. You know she will.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so Emily has done a few shows this fall, whether they're craft shows or different kind of things where she's been able to set up a booth and sell her products. So they had this huge I think they call it holiday craft show at Hazlitt High School. It's the 30th year they've done this. They fill both the gyms and the cafeteria, and there's vendors from all over the region that kind of come in. And so Emily set up her booth, and we got to go and kind of see her in action. It was a great thing to see. We got to see some old friends from Hazlitt. But anyway, we started off the day that way. So, Emily, you're doing a fantastic job. Super proud of you. And that little rabbit trail was free. So anyway, we started our day Saturday there, and
That was a real Tim Wander there.
yeah, because Emily
I appreciate it.
because Emily, the show kind of came up last minute. She and Toby weren't able to go to the pumpkin patch with us, but Tim and my mom and I met Zach and Shelby and Miles, and we picked out an entire wagon full of pumpkins, which was super fun. Miles had a great time. We had cider and donuts. And then we went to dinner, and Toby and Emily met us for dinner. And then we went to this Jack-o'-lanterns Unleashed. And so what this is it starts after dark, and it was basically like a mile walk and like light show meets Halloween pumpkin kind of thing. And it was just really cool. It was a beautiful night. And my smile moment is you're walking in kind of through this big barn, and they have different displays set up, and they have different stuff that they're selling like before you get into the big path that you're going to walk. And of course, at the end of this thing, they have a booth. They're selling light wands. That's right. Think big plastic swords with multiple colored lights that flash in different patterns. And Miles absolutely had to have one of those. Like, he saw it, and Shelby was like, "Oh boy," and I'm like, "Pops is gonna get him one. Of course, Pops is gonna buy him a light wand. I don't even know how much they cost. I don't even care. It brought him so much joy. Like,
Was I already on my way over? I think I usually ask.
you usually ask Zach and Shelby to make
Yeah.
sure it's okay. You did, and they were fine with it. But anyway, like, I know a lot of people get resentful of, like, you know, the little gimmicky things that they get people to spend money on. And I think my perspective over the years has changed. Like, looking at how happy that made him and how much fun he had with that one night, it was so worth it. Like, I'm totally great with that. He was just so happy in his stroller, all tucked under his Spartan blanket with his little light wand. It was just the best.
I feel a little bad that maybe I was grumpier about stuff like that when our boys were young. I think they still got their fair share of those things, but you know, it was
Yeah.
two of them, and we didn't always have the budget back then for the super expensive plastic thing that's going to break when you walk out the door. So
Yeah.
I was probably a little more grumpy, but hopefully I'm making up for it with Miles.
Yeah.
Probably not, but anyway, it's my job now.
That's right. You're the pop now.
So I think one other one that we had was
I know where you're headed. 2 weeks
it was
ago.
2 weekends ago now. Our main TV that we watch all of our sports on and everything, and
It's in the main
in the main room.
living space.
So
Yep.
when we have our little family parties and our other parties for watching a game or whatever, it's always on there and everybody can see it. Well, the left, like, fifth of the screen.
Yeah.
I know that's a very specific fraction there, Jody.
It is.
Yeah. Do you know
I'm
what
gonna
a,
let
you know
you
what
go
a
with
fifth
that.
looks like?
Nope.
Okay.
It's a
Wait.
little less than a quarter.
Oh, Jody loves math.
Mhm.
Anyway, it started with a little flash in the middle and the bottom, and then a little over on the left side. Then we got a whole dark band on the left side.
Yeah, the display was dying.
Yeah, it came to a point where we just knew we were going to have to replace it.
And we
So,
couldn't see the menus on that left side of the screen anymore. We couldn't see like baseball like scores. Like, we just couldn't see.
Yeah, it was bad enough it was an issue. So Amazon Prime Days, ordered Amazon's finest brand you've never heard of
Yep.
at the size that we wanted for the space above our fireplace. And it got here, and I knew we were going to need help getting it mounted.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no way Jody was
I
gonna
mean, the one
help me
that
with
we
it.
had up there, Zach had to help put it up because I couldn't hold it over my head that long because it's
Yeah.
pretty high up on the wall.
So anyway, both boys were
Uh,
here at some point.
Zach and Miles were here, and Toby and Emily were here.
Yeah, and I think all three dogs
Yeah,
roaming
all the
around.
dogs.
Yeah, big help. Big help when you're lifting a TV up. But point one, back to one of Jody's comments the other day. It took me a long time to stare at it and look at it and figure out I had to go to the hardware 2 different times
Twice.
to
Two
get
trips to the hardware.
get some stuff that didn't come with the TV to mount
Right.
at a normal mount, whatever. So anyway, we finally got it all attached, and then it was time to lift this thing up and get it hooked on the wall. So on one hand, it was kind of fun to watch, to see my boys as
Having
adults
to work together.
working together patiently for the most part and figuring things out. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I was the
You were the project manager.
foreman. Yeah, just kind of watching and making sure things went right. So they got it up on the wall, half on once, and then they couldn't get the other half mounted, and it was a big, long wrestling match
Yeah.
of requiring patience, and they did pretty well. And eventually we had to take the whole thing down and move our mount a little bit, and anyway, it was a whole thing. But at one point I had said, I'm making this story plenty long, aren't I?
Yes.
At one point I'd said, well, who has the longest arm so they can reach back and turn this little adjustment? And both of them, I think in unison, like pulled their arms back up against their body where it looked like their hands were just coming out of their armpits, which is the standard response when the check comes at dinner.
Yes.
So I said, I don't mean your dinner check arms. I mean putting the TV up arms. And both their arms shot out
Yeah.
to normal length,
Yeah.
and then we got it done.
Yeah.
But that was a whole full circle family joke that was just that made me smile.
And I think after the fact, I think there was also the joke about I thought about dropping it on your foot, which is another like throwback, long-standing, contentious story. But anyway,
We'll get to that when maybe we interview Toby. Oh, but what came out of that also, after we were done, I think one or both said, well, after that, I think we should be starring in your next episode.
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So we kind of joked about it and then thought, they probably should. So
Yeah.
we're going to have an episode devoted to each one. And then maybe another one where they get to interview us. We don't know. We're still working out the details, but
Yeah. Oh, it was really fun to see them work together. I was doing my best to keep the dogs away and keep Miles out from underfoot, and let you boys kind of manage that. So, and it looks great. It hasn't fallen down yet, so I think we're good.
I think we are. As long as we're stretching that out. Miles had the remote, and as soon as it's on the wall, he was asking, Pop, who watched Spider-Man? So he got the inaugural show to watch on there, and he approved.
We got Spidey and friends. All right. Well, Tim, here's what I'd like to talk about for a segment in this episode, because by the time this episode drops, it's going to be the middle of November. People are going to be in like holiday prep mode, right? End of November, Thanksgiving leads right into December and Christmas holidays. And I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about holiday traditions, what we experience, what were our holiday traditions growing up, and then how we kind of navigated merging family traditions together to kind of create our own traditions with our own family and how those have evolved over the year. You game?
Sure.
All right.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So let's start with Thanksgiving. I don't really remember Thanksgiving as a child.
I know. Strike one, you brought this up to me, and I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Just doesn't really stand out to me.
I think we probably spent Thanksgiving at my grandma Elliot's. But I mean, honestly, I don't really remember it being like a super big thing when I was a kid. I'm sure we celebrated Thanksgiving. I don't really have any clear, distinct memories that, oh, this was Thanksgiving. I know there's a lot of like family holiday kind of stuff, but don't really have any clear memories.
I think my mom actually did that one. I don't remember any of the actual days standing out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, she was definitely doing Thanksgiving when I first met you.
yeah, so there was definitely the turkey and stuffing and
Yeah.
mac and cheese,
Yep.
which was her staple
Yes.
and famous dish still on through today.
Yeah.
Um, so I know it was at our house, but I think the parts I remember, and not to make this sound worse than it was, but I always remember the stress of it the night before and the
Mm.
morning of before
Mm-hmm.
people got there.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the thing. That's
Yeah.
kind of my takeaway from it.
Yeah. It's a lot of work to put together a Thanksgiving spread. Yeah. Yeah.
And as we discussed, it was at Pine Ridge. And
Yes.
growing up, we didn't have the back room on there. So we were cramming in
Yep.
the little one side. So
Yep. Yeah. And I think we did Thanksgiving. So the first turkey I ever cooked was Thanksgiving at your mom's house before we were even married because she was
yeah,
just stressed and overwhelmed. It was the time, like, I think your grandma Beppler was on hospice. And I mean, there was a lot going on. And so I think Kathy and I did a lot of the work. Kathy had come and spent the night before, and Kathy and I did a lot of that work, like before we were even married that first Thanksgiving. But we did. I mean, I think probably the first, I don't know, maybe 10 years we were married, we had Thanksgiving at Pine Ridge. And then I think, as your mom's health started to decline, Sandy started to host it at her house, and it became super fun. We would go. Sandy always cooks 2 turkeys to make sure there's plenty of turkey for everyone to take home. And she's amazing. Like, yeah, Sandy's a fantastic cook. So everybody loves to eat when Sandy cooks. And, the family would gather over there. Everybody would bring a copy of the paper and we'd go through all the Black Friday ads, all the girls. And then it became a thing. Do you remember when Black Friday shopping started on? Well, I guess we started to do it. They started to open the stores at like 4 or 5 a.m. Friday morning. And so we would go out Black Friday shopping. And then it became they opened the stores at like 9 or 10 o'clock on Thursday night. And then we would go out and we would shop all night and go to IHOP at like 4 in the morning and super fun. So we did that for a few years too. And, as our families have kind of grown, I think COVID kind of put an end to that tradition because at first COVID, we couldn't all be together, particularly because both of our boys were working in healthcare. And so, I mean, they were just at higher risk for carrying things than most people because of the number of people and sick people they interacted with on a regular basis. So the last few years, we've just been kind of doing a quiet Thanksgiving around the edges with our kids.
and I'm not going to try and figure out who or when, but at least somebody had COVID around those holidays
Yeah.
from our family or another family.
Yeah.
So, that
Yeah.
kills it.
Yeah.
So,
But I like Thanksgiving. I mean, I think it's just one of those fun holidays where you get to eat, and, the Lions always play football. So that's always a big chunk of our celebration.
that's true. How did I forget that?
I don't know.
That's kind of one of my main
So
memories.
we used to dress up for Thanksgiving, and now it's just about Lions gear.
For sure.
Tell me about.
We got more out of Thanksgiving than we thought for
Yeah.
thinking we didn't have much there. But
Well, tell me about your Christmas traditions growing up.
well, when you mentioned this, the first thing that came to mind is I don't remember my grandpa and grandma Beppler, Alice and Lloyd, really being involved in Christmas get-togethers.
Hmm.
I'm sure they must have been, but I only remember Pete and Mary Bestervelt, my mom's
Yeah.
parents.
Well, they were in Florida for a chunk of your childhood.
They were for a big chunk, and yeah, they didn't come back for it, for sure. So one of my standard memories then is getting up and having our little family Christmas.
Are you talking about Christmas Day?
Christmas Day. Yeah. Christmas Eve was really, you're going to get to this, but was never really much for us. We didn't get together. That was, again, cleaning, getting ready day for
Yep.
everyone to come the next day. And then we did always have a Christmas Eve service at church. So I know we did that in the evening, I believe. Um, so then anyway, we'd have our little family Christmas with the 5 of us, and then I do remember it seems like we would get in uncomfortable clothes to go to Bestervelt's in Battle Creek, where all grandparents are from.
That's right.
And then we would have a dinner there and a couple more of their presents, and then we'd head home. That's kind of the main thing I remember from the very younger ones until you came around.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, for my family, it was 2 full-on days of Christmas. So Christmas Eve, we always spent with my mom's side of the family, the Elliott side of the family. And they had always celebrated, like Christmas Eve had always been a big thing with my mom growing up too. So we would go over to my grandma and grandpa Elliott's house when I was young. And then after we lost them, it was usually either at my mom's house or my Aunt Linda's house, my mom's sister. And so it would be, my grandparents, my great aunt Dodo. We'll have to talk about
Dodo.
Aunt Dodo, aka Georgia Jean Elliott, but everyone, literally everyone who knew her called her Dodo.
Including herself, right?
Including herself, yep. And so, yeah, we would go over there like early afternoon and we'd have snacks and we would just hang out and open presents and we had a big meal. And that was always my favorite part of Christmas, was being, with that side of the family. I remember, like, I can just picture in my mind my grandma's Christmas tree in her front window. And like, I think I still have some of her decorations. My mom and my sister still have some. So anyway, that was always really fun. And then we would go home and we would open our presents from my parents on Christmas Eve before we went to bed. And that was always a thing. And then we would wake up Christmas Eve morning and Santa had visited. And so we'd get to do that. And then we would get ready and we would go to my Grandma Gilbert's house, my dad's parents. And we would be together with all my aunts and uncles and my cousins. And that was fun. Again, that was like more of the dress up and you got the be on your best behavior because it was a lot of people in a small house and they had a finished basement. And so there was actually plenty of space for everyone, but again, it was just a little bit different. I remember my grandma always had classical music playing on a radio in their living room and everything was just the tables were set perfectly. Like it was your classic American kind of family Christmas, which was fun, but it kind of changed when I was in middle school. Instead of, like waking up at the crack of dawn the way excited children do in their younger years, we were dragged out of bed at like, 5:30 in the morning to see what Santa brought us before my mom headed into work.
Oh, I forgot
So my
that was
mom,
the kicker there.
yeah, my mom is a retired nurse, but she got her nursing degree and started working when I was in middle school, and nurses work on holidays. So my mom usually had Christmas Eve off and then she would work Christmas Day. So once that kind of started, it would be my dad and my brother and my sister and I that would go to my grandma's. My mom went to work. So that was an interesting shift. I think, when you and I got together, as all married couples do, they need to sort out what their kind of traditions, how they're going to spend time at the holidays, and that can be complicated.
I don't know if this applies to everyone, but I've seen it in other families. Sometimes there's one parent group who's very gather their kids, want them at everything. That was my mom.
Yes.
Your mom had to work and other things. It's just different personalities.
Yeah.
They were, whatever. We'll see you whenever. So, fortunately, because of our especially at Christmas, because of our schedule where your big day was Christmas Eve, ours was Christmas Day, that was perfect. We'd go to your family's stuff on Christmas Eve.
Yep.
Then I think we would spend the night for stockings.
The first couple of years we did, yeah.
And then head home.
Yeah.
for the bigger Bepler Christmas
Yes.
on Christmas Day, because
Yes.
it always had to be on Christmas Day.
Yes.
So that worked out well for us.
It was hectic.
It was.
For sure.
Right.
But that did. Yeah. And it meant that we didn't get to celebrate Christmas with like my Gilbert side of the family. It was a bigger family, and they were the family that kind of shifted sooner rather than later. So they started celebrating Christmas on a different day. I don't know, it was probably at least 10 or 15 years ago now. Just so more people could be together. Because again, as families start to grow, as kids grow up and have families of their own, Christmas Day, they want to do their own traditions, right? So it was really nice that they kind of switched that day in which they'd kind of get together. So we had the opportunity to see more, because that was one of the only times we'd get to see them during the year.
I don't know if that influenced us at all, but now that we've moved on with our own kids, trying to handle that same situation, we've done some of the same things where we're just kind of pushing the day later in December.
You know, my philosophy on holidays is it's more important for me to spend time with everybody when we can do it in a very relaxed way where people aren't stressed out about hopping from one place to another. It's not about the day on the calendar, right? So if that means we have Thanksgiving, we get together for a Thanksgiving meal on a Friday or Saturday, then great. One of the things that we realized with the Bepler side of the family is, is all the kids have started to grow up. I mean, 4 of the 6 cousins, first cousins from, our kids' generation are married. And have their own families. Getting together on Christmas Day just was no longer feasible. And so what we've done the last few years is I've invited everybody to come on New Year's Day. And we have kind of like a belated Christmas, New Year's celebration where we can all get together and hang out. There's football on, the kids can play, because now we have a new generation of kids. And there's 5 little kiddos in this next generation on the Bepler side of the family. So, changing the date, we still get together with that side of the family. But again, it's not about the date, it's about the people.
Right. And I don't know if we've brought this, I don't think we have brought this up. It may come up again, but with Christmas especially, I think I'm like overprotective of Zach and Shelby's little time with their family, with Miles.
Yeah.
Because I look back on it now and I love it. I love we had the opportunity, but my mom and dad would kind of just come over again with the situation of our house and be there when we wanted to do our own little family thing.
Yeah.
Which, again, I love that we were able to do that now.
Yeah.
But at the time and after that, there were times we wish we just had our own little family thing. So I think I'm more protective of it for them than they are.
Yes.
I'd probably go a little overboard.
We do. Yeah. We're a little sensitive to that. And so when we had Zach, we would go spend Christmas Eve with my Aunt Linda and my Uncle Bob and Jamie and Christy and my whole family, right? We would all get together. And if that was in Troy, where my Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob lived in the time, that meant we drove through Detroit downriver. We spent the night at my parents' so we could open Christmas presents with my parents and with, do like a little Santa thing in the morning. And then we would get in the car and drive home. And I remember it wasn't Zach's first Christmas because he was only like 3 months old, but his second Christmas, he was just over a year old. It was the last time we did this. We woke up in the morning and Zach threw up over the side of the crib at my parents' house. And then I think he was in his little Lions fleece pajamas, footy pajamas, in the car seat, and he threw up in the car seat on the way home. And trying to clean him up was just a nightmare. The poor kid was sick on Christmas, and we're like, this is too much. I think that was like the last Christmas that we're like, okay, we can't continue to do this. This is just too much. I mean, obviously having a sick kid, you can't plan on that. And it happens. It's part of life. Kids are going to be sick on holidays and birthdays. But then we decided, okay, we're going to shift things around. So we come home on Christmas Eve. So we have time together as a little family, a little nucleus on Christmas morning, and kind of establish that tradition. But, for most of the time, I mean, until your mom died, I mean, Sandy was great. She would invite all the grandparents over to her house
Mm-hmm.
and she would cook breakfast and they would all watch Sam and Sarah open their presents, and which was it was nice because it did provide us like the time to have our little time as a family. And you know it may sound selfish to some people, but again, like the context is we were together with Tim's mom and dad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was important for us to create kind of moments and memories that they weren't always included in because they were included in 95% of everything else. So having that time with the boys in the morning, even if it was just for an hour or two, was really special and important to us, which is, I think, what you're getting at, why we're so protective to make sure that, Zach and Shelby have that time with Miles, that Toby and Emily will have that time. We want to honor their time as a family and not overreach.
And back to your story about Zach in the car, I think it was later than this. I mean, later in time than this, but I remember one year somehow we went to your mom and dad's on Christmas Eve,
Mm-hmm.
came home for Christmas, then we went back to Detroit on the 26th for a Gilbert Christmas, and then we went back to a different Detroit area place on the 27th for some other offshoot family Christmas.
Yeah.
So it was like 3 days back and forth.
I do remember that. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. So anyway, holidays can be a really stressful time for people, especially for adults, especially for young parents. If you've got kids and you're trying to navigate, how do I get to all these different events that I want to be a part of or that I'm expected to be a part of? Maybe you don't want to, but you're expected to, so you feel like you have to. It's okay to make choices that are right for your family. And it's okay if other people feel disappointed. Their disappointment is not on you. Let me just make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to make decisions that are best for you and your family. And, you can be kind and gentle about it, but you also need to be firm and say, this is what we need and how we're going to choose to spend our holidays. And we would love to include you in these ways and get together in these ways and these times. But it's okay for you to create kind of your own boundaries and traditions in the way that you want to spend the holidays.
I have to admit, I had to get over the Christmas Day thing a little bit. It was so ingrained in me for almost 50 years of Christmas Day is when we do Christmas Day.
Right.
And it's just a day.
It is just a day.
We can do it anytime. So,
and we can celebrate the birth of Jesus any day too.
Exactly.
Because,
Because the 25th is random anyway, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
So that actually took me a little bit,
mm-hmm.
but I love it now. It's like 2 Christmases. No, we get together probably more days throughout the holidays than just nailing it down to one day, which is great for us.
Yeah. So now, we have a quiet Christmas morning, and the way it's gone the last few years is our kids will come over later in the day and we'll have dinner and hang out, and that's great. And, over time that may change, and that's okay. Like, I'm truly going to be okay with this. So
mm-hmm.
Zach, Toby, Shelby, Emily, it's okay if we need to change the day.
And you know what? If we didn't see them a couple times a week, we might think differently, but we're very blessed to get to see them all the time.
Yes.
So I'm not just clenching my fist on the holiday because that's when we're going to see them. That's not the case.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And I think the other thing, so there's one other thing about the holidays that I just want to mention that I think that we've come to the realization, and I think our kids are completely on the same page as us, is, especially around Christmas, it's not really about how many presents are under the tree and how much money you spend. I think one of the things we've all realized over the years is we would rather spend time together and create memories together than buy things, right? So one of the things that, I think we're all trying to do more, especially when it comes to gift giving, Last year the kids went in together and they bought us tickets to go see Wicked, which was amazing. I think one year Zach and Shelby bought us tickets and we went to a Spartan basketball game together.
Hmm.
So, in terms of gift giving, like what are the opportunities for things like that where you're investing in your relationship, spending time and creating memories together? If that's not something that you do, I'd highly encourage you to consider something like that because that means way more. I have enough sweaters, I have enough toys. I'd rather spend time with the people that I love.
This is turning into a Christmas episode like a couple months early, but
Well,
that's
people
cool.
are in holiday
That's
prep
true.
mode. They're Christmas shopping. They're thinking about how they're spending their time for the holidays, and so that's why I think this is going to be really timely.
I just had a flashback as we were talking about Christmas that I didn't think of before. Growing up, you were talking about gift giving, and really now we just, if we see something we want to get for somebody,
Yeah, we just get it.
we want to get them a gift. We kind of canceled the whole adult gift giving thing for a while in our family because it was going to be so many people to
Yes.
buy for, really, and it was just, I think it was more stressful for everyone to go buy something so they could get something
Right.
in return.
Right.
So we kind of did away with that, and that is actually very nice.
And we
But
buy for the littles so they
yeah,
have something to play with. But yeah.
but that reminded me of growing up. My mom was like, count the gifts. Everybody
Yes.
has to have the same number of gifts, and better keep it all within a couple dollars budget
Yes.
of each other. And then here's the other thing, Christmas Day, that was different between you and me. Sit down for very organized gift opening.
Uh-huh.
Go around the circle.
Yeah.
Watch everyone open every present. Take pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
Video if my grandpa was there with his giant
Over the shoulder camcorder.
like
Yeah.
news channel 6 camcorder size camera.
Yeah.
Um yeah, very orderly. And that your family was not like that.
They were a little bit, but not like to the rigid standards
Mhm.
yours is. Yeah. We
Yep.
would kind of take turns, but it wasn't like, wait, I can't see. I need to get into the perfect position to capture this moment. Yeah.
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 You didn't open your present without eye contact with my mom.
Yeah.
Make sure there is a look way.
Oh, that's so funny.
Well,
Okay.
that was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
the more we talked about it, the more
Yeah.
memories kind of popped up.
Okay, there's one other memory, Christmas memory that I want to share because it was just one of these weird situations. So I don't even know. This is probably 11 or 12 years ago now. We had a massive storm that hit right before Christmas, right? So like snow and ice. The entire Lansing area was like without power. Your dad was in the hospital. You had been really sick with the flu. We had no heat, no electricity at home. And on Christmas Eve, we were like, what do we do? Right? The whole family was supposed to come to our house on Christmas Day for dinner. And so what we did is we wound up sending Zach and Toby. Zach was driving. Zach and Toby went to Christmas Eve with my family. They drove, I think Rob and Amber were hosting at their house. So they wound up going down. And then we were at the hospital with your dad, and Pete and Sandy got their power back. And we went out to Pete and Sandy's, and I think we had, I don't know, whatever we could scrounge around. Like it wasn't a big thing. And Sandy was like, okay, well, I guess like we can have Christmas Day here since we have power. We'll like tell Dave and Kath to come here, and we'll just, whatever we have that we can pull together, that's what it's going to be. Right. So, the boys were on their way home last night, and I think a friend of Toby's drove by our house, and they're like, hey, your lights are on. We're like, oh, we have power. And I remember racing home that night and like cleaning out the refrigerator. Like, okay, what do I have that's still usable? Like we had to like I had taken the core things for Christmas and packed them in a cooler outside to kind of keep them good. And so had to clean out and throw out garbage bags full of stuff out of the refrigerator, freezer that had been. Anyway, and somehow by some Christmas miracle, we pulled it off. But then
Jody, this is like your nightmare.
I know.
Almost from other
But
day.
the weird thing is, Sunday morning, Christmas morning, we're opening our presents and our power goes out again. And I'm like, okay, Christmas is off again. And then, like, with 20 minutes later, it came back on. I'm like, Christmas is back on again. So it was like off on, off on. It was the craziest Christmas. Somehow we pulled it together. Everybody came over. I don't even remember what the meal was, but we made it work and it was fun and memorable. And, you work with what you have, and it's never going to be perfect.
And here's a good example of perspective also, Jody, is that was big time stress for you. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
I don't even remember it.
Uh-huh.
Like it's not even a blip on my radar
Right.
that it was an issue
Right.
all those years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, so all of that to say, like, in hindsight, all the anxiety and Christmas is on and off, and we're just going to make do. And if that means we have ham sandwiches for Christmas dinner, then we have ham sandwiches for Christmas dinner, and nobody's going to remember 10 years later, Or you're going to sit back and laugh about how crazy the whole situation was, like we are now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's really hard, or it's really easy to say now that it's October 26th, don't stress about Christmas. But seriously, don't stress about it.
Hey, but we found out we don't have to go to Dallas this year.
That's right.
So that's
It's a whole weekend of travel in the month of December we can take off the calendar.
yeah. It's a day getting there
Yeah.
for 2 days there and then a whole day getting back.
Yeah.
It's pretty hectic. And the first year that I started working full time, it was the first year, right?
It was the second year.
Second
when
year,
we went to Cabo.
We went to Cabo and they did it like the 20th or something.
Yeah, we got home on like the 23rd of December after being out of the country for a few days. And I think we hosted both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day that year at our house. It was insanity.
Well, I do remember those being very stressful for everyone.
Yeah.
So we're not dealing with that this year. That's
right.
good.
That's right. Well, I think, as again, like my reminder, young families, take some time, figure out what you want your core family traditions to be. What are the things that are important to you? What kind of memories do you want to create with your core family? And then work in the people that you love, that you're close to around the edges. Like, it's okay to make those decisions for your family.
And then when you're 50, you'll be prepared to go to Cancun over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're going to skip Thanksgiving this year.
We're going to try it. We'll see how it works. But
I think it's going to be fantastic.
I think it'll be fun.
They'll have the Lions game on in Mexico.
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Well, that took way more time than we thought. But you were right. You said once we start talking about it,
yeah,
we'll start remembering and
I know how these
taking
things
the
go,
trails.
Tim.
Yep.
Yeah, trust me sometimes.
Oh, I do all the time, Jody.
Aw, thank you for that reminder.
Except with directions. I think I'm getting a
No
look.
comment.
Oh, there was plenty of comment in your eyes. Plenty of comment. Well, we got a lot out of those holidays, Jody. I'm sure we're going to have more as we move into the actual holiday season. Some other things will come up.
Yeah.
But let's go to one of our kind of weekly things. Something you're listening to or reading right now.
I'm happy to report I have completed both Fiona Fleming Cozy Mystery Murders series, each of 14 books. That's right, 28 books. And I've moved on to the next one in the series, which features her best friend, Daisy Bruce. Anyway, it is, reading is a passion and hobby of mine. It's the way that I can slow my brain down. I can turn off work, transition to home. I can slow my brain down and go to bed. I've read every single night before I go to bed for as long as I can remember. So like from the time I started reading. So it is just an ingrained habit for me. And I love the mysteries.
You do?
Yeah.
And it's one of our most recurring charges on our card. Amazon Digital. Amazon Digital.
Yep.
Amazon Digital.
I mean, you knew this before you married me.
Yeah.
It was in our marriage contract.
It's probably still cheaper than a book.
It is, for sure.
Maybe.
It is.
But you start a book and then you're like, yeah, I don't like it.
No, I don't.
You have.
A few, but not very many. There are very few books that I've ever started and kicked aside.
You want to fight about this? You want to go?
No, because I'll win.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't had. Sorry, was that? Were you good?
I'm good.
Can you
Yeah.
read?
Tell me what you're reading, listening to.
I haven't downloaded another book yet because I'm too lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really been reading anything, and honestly, I feel like I've been working at nights
You have.
a
Yeah.
fair amount. So
Yeah.
my eyes are pretty well shot. So it's time for bed. That's when I would read too,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just not having it. Well, my listen though, I got to go out and start chopping up, mowing over a bunch of leaves in the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
which is a nice.
You had a good listen
I
session
enjoy
the other
it.
night. Yeah.
That's another way for me to wash off the day.
Mm-hmm.
Is just go get on the mower and start doing
Mhm.
loops. So I was in the middle of that, and as often happens, one of the songs on my huge list of just favorites that I dump in there all the
Mhm.
time, and then hit shuffle while I'm out there. This song came up by Green River Ordinance. That was My Cup Is Full, and there were just so many little
Mhm.
bits in that were just so perfect. I listened to it probably 5 times.
You sent it to me.
Sent it to you so you could
Mhm.
listen to it.
Mhm.
So such a good one. It made me smile while I was out there.
Yeah.
And it was partly my experience and partly the experience I see for our kids now.
Mm,
You
I
know,
love that.
as they're getting older and
Yeah.
having kids and dogs, and that's where we are right now. But as
Yeah.
as it keeps growing, I just see that that's
Yeah.
so much what they're in for, and I
Yeah.
love it. So
Yeah.
probably get that on a reel here for this episode, I imagine.
Yeah. We really got to get together a playlist of all these songs that we mention on our podcast too that we can share. Well, speaking of our kids, I hear our grand dog, Ivy May, in the background. We probably need to take them outside. We're dog sitting Ivy while Toby and Emily are tailgating today.
It's been a
Toby's
big week
birthday.
for dogs.
Yeah, we've had Gus here this week. Ivy, this is the second day we've had Ivy. Yeah, we love our grand dogs too.
Future fam, in case you listen to this someday and we have never met,
We love you.